Welcome, Gunrunner.
I don't really think I need to fill any of you in on the background of the SNK Neo Geo, the world's first arcade perfect console. I've done several videos on my channel looking at the hardware itself and what it has to offer games wise, as well as going into much of that backstory in an amazing facts episode on the SNK Machine 2. As always, I'll link all those videos down in the description for those that need a catch up. But what I want to come back to is that arcade part for a moment. Because when I ran my greatest arcade games of all time poll, some people got upset that Neo Geo games were excluded from the voting, and that was because I always wanted to do this video, which takes in AES, MVS and Neo Geo CD games too. I always believed that the iconic format very much needed a video of its own, and so here we are. As with previous greatest of all time videos, I put the big question to the members of several large retro gaming groups on Facebook, including the hugely popular and very lively Retro Gaming Hysteria, link in the description for those who want to join, as well as my own loyal subscribers, asking them to name their top 5 and the reasons why. Following the same rules as before, I awarded 5 points to your first choice, 4 points to second, and so on and so forth. I then counted up those votes to decide the final placings, and in the cases of games having the same number of points, I then went to the number of votes awarded, followed by the number of first place votes to decide the final rankings. I didn't actually have to use these tiebreakers much in this video, with them only coming into effect when I started compiling the wider top 40, which, as always, will be available as a Patreon exclusive video at the start of next month. Now, in terms of the themes I spotted in the voting process and surprising entries, I think I can firmly say that this turned out to be the most unpredictable video yet. Although there are some very obvious titles in this list, there were other games that I was sure would make the top 10, let alone the top 20, that barely made the top 40. There were also games I never expected to see on the list at all, that somehow made it. The top of the chart is particularly surprising, with a final podium that is totally unique to these types of videos, and something that I never saw coming. But I think I have already come dangerously close to giving away some spoilers, so with all that important context out the way, it's time for me to introduce the main event as I proudly present the 20 greatest SNK Neo Geo games of all time.
100 Mega Shock Neo Geo! About time you got here! What's that supposed to prove? Talking to you! You're one of a kind. Everybody over.
SNK.
Back in the late 80s, every system needed an iconic puzzle game. Nintendo had Tetris, Atari had Clax, Sega had Columns, and in response SNK developed Puzzled, a game that certainly owes a great deal to the aforementioned Russian block dropper, but with some clever twists of its own. Classic arcade company Video System moved from manufacturing their own coin-ops to making games for the SNK platform instead, and the Aero Fighters series proved a big favourite amongst Neo Geo fans, with this second game widely regarded as the best of the bunch. The King of Fighters series might have originally started life as a spin-off of Fatal Fury, but it soon replaced it as SNK's biggest fighting game franchise, and it was the 1995 offering that cemented its place at the top, with many regarding it as the best game in its genre upon release. The Last Blade might not be SNK's most famous fighting franchise, but it seems to have a big cult following, with both games appearing on this list. The CD version is the one to look out for, as it includes an extra quiz mode, fully voiced cutscenes, and a special gallery section. Although the fighting game franchises seem to lead the way as far as the Neo Geo is concerned, if you ask me what my favourite SNK series is, then I will reply Sengoku without even thinking, and there's no doubting that this second title is the best one in the fantastical beat-em-up trilogy. It started off on the Nintendo NES, but the baseball style series continued on the Neo Geo, and proved just as popular for SNK. In fact, when you ask people what their favourite baseball game of all time is, the Baseball Stars franchise is always one of the first to get mentioned.
There's the pitch.
The second Last Blade game already appeared on this list in 17th place, and now we have the original title in 14th. This weapons-based fighter was initially dismissed as being too similar to Samurai Shodown, but soon built up a pretty hardcore following of its own, as this list proves. I honestly expected the amazing Neo Turf Masters to make the top 3, possibly even win, so to see this amazing entertaining golf game not even make the top 10 here is a huge shock. The fact many still cite this title as the best golf game ever very much backs my own feelings up. In 1994, leading arcade company Taito took Bub and Bob away from their regular platform game frolics and put them into a puzzle game instead, and the rest, as they say, is history, as the Buster Move franchise, as it's also known, has gone on to become one of the most popular puzzlers in existence. Like the King of Fighters, Garou was produced as a spin-off of the Fatal Fury franchise, and indeed the original name was Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves. Although it looks and plays similar in many ways, including many familiar characters, the actual fight mechanics are actually quite different.
Garou, Mark of the Wolves.
I have to confess that I'm not a huge fan of fighting games personally, but if you ask me what my favourites are, then Fatal Fury Special would be one of them. I always like the dual plane fighting mechanic of this franchise, and the range of different characters in this game is just perfect. Magician Lord is a title that very much stands apart in the Neo Geo library, as the arcade adventure genre was pretty much ignored on the console, and that's a great shame, because this impressive title very much shows what could have been done with the ever popular genre. And in 8th place we have one of the games that very much put the Neo Geo into the spotlight and also cemented its legacy as the best machine for fighting games. Fatal Fury was not just SNK's answer to Street Fighter II, it was actually designed by ex-Capcom employees who worked on the first game. And from Fatal Fury to SNK's other big fighting game franchise in the early days in Samurai Shodown. There were votes for several of the games in this iconic weapons-based fighter series, but it's the second game that makes 7th place, with more of the same that made the original so successful. One game I was really hoping would make the top 10 was Shock Troopers, so to see it in 6th place pleases me greatly. This takes the tried and tested one-man army gameplay that we saw in Capcom's Commando and SNK's very own Ikari Warriors and pumps it full of steroids. Had the second game already, and now we have the original, the one that started it all, taking elements from many other fighting games of the era including Fatal Fury like specials and the zooming effects of Art of Fighting. Samurai Shodown added weapons to add an even more lethal touch. I think we all expected this one near the top, didn't we? In fact, I'm quite shocked it didn't get in the medal spot, because the King of Fighters franchise is still going strong today, and this 1998 entry has long been regarded as the best of the best. Now, can you guess what games managed to beat it? Now, don't go thinking there are 10 Metal Slug games on the Neo Geo, because the name of this entry is perhaps a little bit misleading, as it's actually the third entry for the system, which is even more confusing when you realise that there's also a Metal Slug 3, as you're about to find out.
Thank you. Metal Slug X!
Yes, we have another Metal Slug game in second place, but this is the real Metal Slug 3, because Metal Slug X was actually just a remixed and upgraded version of the second game. Most people actually regard this one as the best in the series, but it still didn't manage to claim the top spot. And yes, the Metal Slug dominance continues as the original game takes the win as the greatest Neo Geo game of all time. I'm guessing this is mostly down to it being the one that the most people have played, but that doesn't reduce the legacy of this amazing run and gun blast fest.
玲子に負けた。このままでは。
ソフト続々ネオジオ CD。
こうしてこっち早く。そう。
係長上手。
いやいやいや。
闇に滅せよ。
玲子。
ガローボキングも侍もソフト続々ネオジオ CD。
SNK.
And that rounds up my look at the 20 greatest SNK Neo Geo games of all time. But which games were you most surprised not to see make the final list? Or are there any games that you don't think were worthy of inclusion in this countdown? I always love to hear the thoughts and views of my audience, so please get typing in that comments section. Before I go though, I must thank all of my loyal patrons and YouTube backers for continuing to support my channel and make videos like this possible. However, I must give special thanks to the following people in particular for their much appreciated pledges: Paul Daniel, Mins, Dos Gamerman, Luke MC, Carl Olsen, Seth Robinson, Frosty, Mark Strickland, Climatorn, Trogdor the Burninator, Daniel Skronsky, Ben P. Stein, Tabby Kitsine, David Maddox, Rise of Bleeding, Joe Casara, Classic Gamer 74, Bernard Santu, Peter Grantham, Noah Mann, and Electron Star Collapse. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours, including this YouTube channel, then please go and check out my Patreon right now, where you can get access to host extra content including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights, and much more besides. I've been the Laird, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.